Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Mattel Jurassic World Rebirth release, another Wild Roar figure no less. This is the Maiasaura, and this one I personally am very excited about because I love this species. I have ever since I had seen that book and kind of like a short film for Maya, a Dinosaur Grows way back when I was younger. So I've always kind of, really quite enjoyed this species. So I'm actually quite excited to have this one in the Mattel line, and I kind of expected it to come eventually, so happy that it is now here. Packaging pretty much the same as usual. The back, of course, also the same as usual, just showing a nice image of the Maiasaura itself. And then down here, a little checklist of the other figures that are in this wave, all of which we have reviewed now, except for the Nasutoceratops, which is coming next. Also, what's unfortunate is a good friend of mine, Brent from Prehistoric Beast Models, actually traded me this and the Nasutoceratops for some figures, and I sent them to him. He sent these to me. They've been pretty much held up in customs for a little while now, so I just went ahead and snagged them on Walmart because I am absolutely intending on repainting both, because I think when it comes to this, it's definitely a very, very nice looking figure that needs a repaint, and the Nasutoceratops is, in my opinion, definitely the best version of that one that we've had as far as the sculpt goes as well, so another repaint most likely. So it's not a big deal that I acquired these at Walmart anyway, because I'm going to just have two, and I was intending on buying two either way. But again, I do want to give a shout out and a thank you to my buddy Brent for the trade, even if these aren't exactly the ones that I traded. But regardless, let's pop this out of the box and check it out. So here is our Maiasaura, and definitely looking quite elegant. One thing I will say, I actually quite like the paint application on this one a lot more in person than I was expecting to. I remember seeing quite a few images of it prior to its release and thinking it's a great looking sculpt, but the paint apps are definitely leaving something to be desired. However, in person, again, it's not incredible, but I definitely like it a bit more than I was expecting, which is a huge plus for the figure. But if we go ahead, bring it up here and take a nice closer look, starting here in the head sculpt, you can see it looks pretty good. The skin texture looks nice, quite vibrant as a whole. A little bit of variation to the style of skin texture, especially as you get closer to the eye area where it kind of becomes a little bit more fine. You have a nice light tone for a good portion of the face, as well as the, lower part of the head. Then you've got this nice bluish tone, as well as some browns there circling around the eye, and then some orange up here on the top that leads down, which looks really good. We also have a dark grayish tone for the beak. Weirdly, though, we don't have any coloration for the beak on the lower part, and I really would have liked to have seen that. I feel like it definitely would have helped with the overall visual of the figure and making it look a little bit nicer. We can see the tongue on the inside of the mouth as well as the skin stretching there, but we also do not have paintwork for that area either, which is as well unfortunate and is almost eating me alive, one of the many reasons why I definitely need to repaint one of these. But as you lead up, you can also take note to the fact that the eye is yellow, but rather than a black pupil, we just have that brown for the pupil, which again kind of irks me when they do that. I just wish they'd just give it the black pupil. It's not going to kill you guys to just add one little dot of black on each side. But overall, it's pretty decent. There is a really weird seam right here, though, that shows up as you move back into the neck area. But up here on the top of the head, you can see a small line of ridges that follows along the spinal column. We can also see a brown leading down, striping back behind the eye, and then leading through the body. The skin texture looks quite nice. We can see the light tone moving down along the underside of the throat, but then ending as you lead toward the chest. We have quite a bit of skin wrinkles and folds and stuff as you lead closer down to the body, but overall it looks quite nice when it comes to the fine detail, and decent as far as the paint apps go. There's definitely going to be some articulation in the neck, but I think that's definitely going to be attached to the action feature. As we lead back into the body, and my camera freaks out because apparently it doesn't like the colors of this one, you can see that the style of skin texture gets drastically larger. We have very large scales, as well as some osteoderms and stuff popping up here and there. You can see the ridges pick back up in the spinal column as well and lead along the top of the dinosaur. Not a whole lot of color back here, but you do have the brown that stripes back but disappears before it reaches the leg, and then you have this lighter tone that shows up in the stomach region and just kind of adds a few little splotchy areas of this like light gray. And that's really the only area that we see that, because it is a slightly different shade of color than this. This is more of like an off-white, whereas this is more of a light gray. And that's the only area where we really see that, you know, spot of skin color, but it is what it is. Again, it's okay, I guess, for what the coloration of this one is. Leading down the front leg, you can see some nice looking skin texture. We can also take note to the elbow back there. As we lead down, we've got the toes sculpted out, but unfortunately no painted nails. You do, of course, have leg articulation forward and back, a little jerky like it usually is. You can also move the legs out away from the body. As you move back into the rear legs, you can see the muscle definition shining the entire way through. Again, big kind of rough and rugged scales, especially right there. You can see a cluster of the really larger scales that kind of, you know, decrease, I guess, in size as you move out, but you could see another cluster of them right here as you move down. We could take note to the kneecap, which also has some of those larger scales around it. As I drop it, we have the calf muscle back here, and then again the foot sculpt here looking fairly decent as far as the scoots and everything moving down the toes. Although I thought Maiasaura only actually had 3 toes on the rear foot, and I don't think that's the first time that Mattel has done that. I believe they've added in random toes on figures in the past for some reason. I don't know why, but I guess in the grand scheme of things, again, when it comes to a Jurassic World dinosaur, it doesn't have to be perfectly accurate. So it's just another of those instances where Mattel goes a little bit crazy when it comes to the amount of toes they put on their figures, which is like a really strange thing to kind of obsess over. Also, again, even though we have so many toes, we don't have any nail paint. We just have a little bit of a glossy look for those claws. As you move back, you can see again there's another spot of articulation, because this is how you activate the action feature. The tail does lead out, has a nice elegant curve to it. You can see some more ridges moving along the back of the dinosaur, and we also have a spot of articulation right here, a little swivel action back there on the tail, which is nice. When you look at it from here, you can really take in the nice curve to the tail, which I really quite like. Of course, on the opposing side, for the most part, it's going to look pretty much the same, but you will see a little difference in the positioning of the legs, as this leg is kind of picking up off of the ground, it looks like, or maybe actually stepping down onto the ground. Once you put the other foot in position to where it should be, you can see that one's about to lift up, as this one is planting down, and this leg here is trailing. So a little bit of a different look from one side to the other as far as the pose goes, but not too far off overall. As far as the articulation goes for the rear leg, you can see again forward and back, as we have the Hadrosaur yelling something there, but you normally would have like articulation moving out away from the body. Sadly, we do not have that with this figure. Again, no articulation moving out away from the body with the rear legs, which is something that I think I've seen the entire way through this round of Wild Roars. As far as the action feature goes, just like with all of the Wild Roars so far, you have the tail to activate the action feature, so we'll go ahead and get this thing moving. I do quite like some of the noises, so just wanted to kind of get a feel for the noises as far as the actual movement goes. As you can see, it's pretty much like it has been with the others, minus the jaw snapping action feature. So you can push the head up and down, but when you twist it, you can twist it and move the head as well. So that gives you some nice range of movement with the figure. So pretty cool. Also, there is the fax app code if you would like to add this one to your collection. Right there you go. As far as a size goes for this one, for a length from the snout to the tail, you're looking at about just shy of 12.5 inches, or around 31.5, closing in on 32 centimeters, but not quite there. For a height, you are looking at just shy of 4 3/4 inches, or pretty much 12 centimeters on the dot. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Maiasaura, and you can see it does have pretty much your traditional Wild Roar size to it, not really too different as far as that goes. And to further give you an idea of the size and what I would think is probably a better comparison, we'll bring in a nice family of hadrosaurs one by one with the Parasaurolophus figures. So this one is, I believe, the Chaos Theory version that had come out for Wave 2, I think. And you can see again that they're pretty similar in size, just a little bit more bulkiness to the Maiasaura. But then when we go a little bit older school, I guess you could say, as far as the Parasaurolophus goes, you can see that this version had kind of the same bulkiness that the Maiasaura does, also extremely similar in size. And it's not until you reach the 12-inch basic version of the Parasaurolophus where you see the size increase past the point of this Maiasaura. So obviously, when it comes to a standard Wild Roar size range, this one is exactly where you would expect it to be. We've also got a comparison here with the Mattel Edmontosaurus, which you can see is, also roughly the same size as the Maiasaura. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Rebirth Maiasaura is a very nice figure. Sculpt-wise, I think they did a great job on this. It is extremely highly detailed and overall just looks gorgeous when it comes to each and every scale applied to the body of this one. Mattel has really been doing a great job on their sculpts for honestly a long time. Like if you go back and look at the original sculpts from Mattel for Fallen Kingdom, they were good, but when you look at them go over time and how much they have improved, their sculpting detail and everything now is like crazy impressive, and by far some of the nicest detailing that you'll see anywhere when it comes to a dinosaur toy. So again, kudos to Mattel for hammering out a gorgeous sculpt, even if there are inaccuracies like the amount of toes on the rear foot. And I don't know for sure if Maiasaura is one of the hadrosaurs that we believe might have had hooves. At this point, I'm not positive, but when it comes to like a Jurassic World version, like we very much so know that Parasaurolophus in the films does not have hooves, so I would imagine the Maiasaura probably wouldn't either. But as far as the paint apps go, again, it's pretty decent. Like, I thought at first they weren't really that great, but here in person, they're definitely a little bit nicer than I was giving them credit for. I think they overall are fairly decent. You've got some nice flashiness with the orange up in the face. There's not a whole lot to it, and of course the coloration does end basically in the hip region like it usually does, or even before the hip region with this one. But it is what it is. Again, it's pretty much your run-of-the-mill Mattel color scheme, and again, I think it looks okay for what it is. It does have some fun articulation, some fun action features and stuff like that as well, so overall it's definitely worth picking up, and not to mention, it's a Maiasaura. How could you not want it? So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to walmart.com where I purchased mine, so check that link, grab it if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.